This law mandates that contractors must be paid within 30 days of submitting an invoice. If a contractor is not paid within this 30-day time frame, they have the right to demand a binding arbitration hearing to enforce their claim. If the contractor prevails in the arbitration, the law was then the amount owed, plus interest calculated at 1% over the prime rate. Furthermore, the contractor can seek compensation for the expenses incurred while pursuing the claim. It's worth noting that the only opposition to this law came from two large builders' associations. This new law presents several key benefits for contractors. Firstly, it ensures timely payment for services rendered, improving cash flow and financial stability for contracting businesses. Secondly, it provides a clear and enforceable mechanism for resolving payment disputes through binding arbitration, reducing the need for costly and time-consuming litigation. Thirdly, the provision for interest on late payments and compensation for expenses incurred incentivizes prompt payment and discourages delaying tactics. This law offers significant advantages for contractors in terms of financial security, dispute resolution, and fair compensation. By ensuring timely payment and providing a means to resolve disputes efficiently, it promotes a healthier and more equitable business environment for contractors. The interest rate calculation of 1% over prime is a critical aspect of the law. The prime rate is a benchmark interest rate used by banks, and adding 1% to it provides a reasonable incentive for timely payment while compensating the contractor for the delay in receiving funds. The ability to seek compensation for expenses incurred while pursuing the claim is another important provision. These expenses can include attorney's fees, arbitration costs, and other related costs, which can be substantial. By allowing contractors to recover these expenses, the law reduces the financial burden of pursuing payment and makes it more feasible for them to enforce their rights. The fact that the only opposition to the law came from two large builders' associations is telling. It suggests that these associations may be reluctant to pay their bills on time and that the law may have a significant impact on their business practices. This highlights the importance of the law in protecting the interests of contractors and ensuring fair payment for their services. To fully understand the implications of this law, it's essential to consider the definition of a contractor, the types of contracts covered, and the specific procedures for initiating arbitration. A contractor, in this context, typically refers to an individual or business entity that provides construction-related services such as building, renovation, or repair work. The law likely applies to a wide range of contracts, including both residential and commercial projects. To initiate arbitration, a contractor would typically need to provide written notice to the other party, specifying the amount owed and the basis for the claim. The notice should also include a demand for arbitration and a proposed arbitrator or method for selecting one. The arbitration process itself would typically involve the submission of evidence such as contracts, invoices, and payment records, as well as the opportunity for both parties to present their case. The arbitrator would then issue a decision, which would be binding on both parties. The law's impact on the construction industry could be substantial. By ensuring timely payment and providing a means to resolve disputes efficiently, it could lead to increased competition, improved quality of work, and greater transparency in the industry. It could also encourage more individuals and businesses to enter the contracting field, creating new jobs and economic opportunities. However, it's also possible that the law could have some unintended consequences. For example, it could lead to increased litigation or arbitration as contractors seek to enforce their rights. It could also lead to increased costs for construction projects as contractors factor in the risk of late payment and the cost of pursuing arbitration. Therefore, it's important to monitor the implementation of the law closely and make adjustments as needed to ensure that it achieves its intended goals. Furthermore, contractors should be aware of their rights and responsibilities under the law and take steps to protect their interests. This includes carefully reviewing contracts, submitting invoices promptly, and documenting all work performed. It also includes seeking legal advice if necessary and being prepared to pursue arbitration if payment is not received within 30 days. In addition to the specific provisions of the law, it's also important to consider the broader context of construction law and regulations. Contractors should be familiar with relevant building codes, safety regulations, and licensing requirements. They should also be aware of their obligations to employees, subcontractors, and suppliers. By staying informed and complying with all applicable laws and regulations, contractors can minimize their risk of legal disputes and ensure the success of their projects. The new law could potentially affect the relationship between contractors and builders associations. Given that the large builders associations opposed the law, this could create some friction between the two groups. Contractors who support the law might be less inclined to join or participate in builders associations that opposed it. It's also possible that builders associations could try to challenge the law in court or seek to amend it through legislative action. However, the law could also create an opportunity for dialogue and collaboration between contractors and builders associations. By working together, they could develop best practices for payment and dispute resolution that benefit both parties. They could also advocate for policies that promote a healthy and sustainable construction industry. The overall success of the law will depend on several factors, including the effectiveness of the arbitration process, the willingness of contractors to enforce their rights, and the responsiveness of the courts and regulatory agencies. It will also depend on the broader economic conditions and the demand for construction services. However, the law represents a significant step forward in protecting the interests of contractors and promoting fairness in the construction industry. It provides a valuable tool for contractors to ensure that they are paid fairly and promptly for their work and to resolve payment disputes efficiently and effectively. This law has a number of potential implications for the construction industry and for contractors operating within the jurisdiction. It is essential to examine these implications to fully understand the law's potential impact. One of the primary implications is the increased financial security for contractors. By mandating payment within 30 days, the law reduces the risk of delayed payments, which can significantly impact a contractor's cash flow and ability to operate effectively. This improved financial security can allow contractors to take on more projects, invest in their businesses, and create more jobs. Another implication is the potential for reduced disputes over payments. The law's clear guidelines on the availability of binding arbitration can help to prevent payment disputes from escalating into costly and time-consuming litigation. This can save contractors money and allow them to focus on their core business activities. The law may also lead to increased competition in the construction industry. By creating a more level playing field, the law can encourage more contractors to enter the market and compete for projects. This can lead to lower prices for consumers and higher quality work. The law could potentially impact the relationship between contractors and builders associations, particularly those that oppose the legislation. This could lead to a shift in membership and influence within the construction industry. From a legal perspective, there are several aspects to consider. The definition of a contractor under the law is important. It's essential to understand who qualifies as a contractor and is therefore protected by the law. Also, the types of contracts covered by the law is crucial. The law might apply to all construction contracts or only to specific types, such as those above a certain value. The procedures for initiating arbitration need to be followed. Contractors must be aware of the steps they need to take to initiate arbitration, including providing proper notice and documentation. The role of the arbitrator is also important. The arbitrator's decision is binding, so it's essential to select a qualified and impartial arbitrator. Some potential unintended consequences might include increased costs for construction projects. To mitigate this, contractors should carefully manage their costs and negotiate favorable payment terms with clients. Also, potential for increased litigation or arbitration. To mitigate this, contractors should focus on clear communication and documentation to avoid disputes. To ensure compliance with the law, contractors should implement several strategies. Firstly, they should review all contracts carefully to ensure compliance with the law. Secondly, they should submit invoices promptly and accurately. Thirdly, they should document all work performed and keep accurate records. Fourthly, they should seek legal advice if necessary. The role of government agencies in enforcing the law is critical. Government agencies may be responsible for investigating complaints, conducting audits, and imposing penalties for violations of the law. Also, the role of the courts in interpreting the law. The courts may be called upon to interpret the law and resolve disputes over its meaning and application. The law has potential economic benefits. It can stimulate economic growth by creating jobs, increasing investment, and promoting competition. It can also improve the financial stability of contractors and allow them to invest in their businesses. The law also has potential social benefits. It can promote fairness and equity in the construction industry. It can also protect the rights of contractors and ensure that they are paid fairly for their work. This law could be used as a model for other states or jurisdictions. The law's provisions could be adopted by other states or jurisdictions to protect the rights of contractors and promote fairness in the construction industry.